What happened to Australia's gold standard gun laws? This week, a pair of alleged gunmen were able to kill 15 people using licensed firearms that one of the men had every legal right to own. For many, this came as a shock. But the truth is, experts have been trying to warn us about the rising number of guns in Australia for years.
Perhaps our gun control regime is a little past its use-by date. Things have changed, the boundaries have been able to be pushed.
The story begins in 1996 when a lone gunman killed 35 people using 2 semi-automatic weapons in Port Arthur, Tasmania.
You heard the gunshots.
In the aftermath of this massacre, Australia's federal and state governments embarked on a pretty much unprecedented gun reform campaign. There were massive national gun buybacks, semi-automatic weapons were restricted, licensing requirements were tightened, and gun owners had to demonstrate a genuine reason for owning one. Plus, there were plans for much, much more to come.
That is an element of turning around the culture in this country.
And overall, it was a massive success. The number of firearms in the community plummeted, gun deaths fell by a rate of 6% a year, and there's only been 5 mass shootings in the 30 years since. Compare that to some countries where, tragically, those events have become a regular occurrence. Australians are rightfully proud. But has that pride transformed into complacency? Remember those plans for much, much more? Well, most of those just never happened. We are still waiting for a national gun registry to bring Australia's archaic and quite chaotic registration system into the 21st century. And all that talk of harmonising the hodgepodge of different gun laws across the states and territories just never turned into a reality. As a Guardian investigation revealed, there are a plethora of loopholes and workarounds that have allowed guns to fall into the hands of criminals.
Licences once issued were not re-examined. The reasons why people were accumulating large number of firearms or even ammunition were kind of being missed because registries were out of date, sometimes still operating on paper.
And even some of those core reforms, like the requirement for a genuine reason to own a gun, have become untenably broad. For example, in New South Wales, 200,000 people currently have a Category A firearm licence for recreational hunting. But only 11,000 people actually participate in recreational hunting each year. The number of guns in Australia has crept up and up and up. In fact, it is now at 4 million, 800,000 more than on the day of the Port Arthur massacre. And it doesn't end there. 2,000 extra are entering the community every week. And before you ask, this isn't all just farmers who require firearms to take care of their land either. Nearly a third of New South Wales' 1 million guns are in major cities, sometimes in extraordinary numbers. In Sydney, there are at least 70 people who have more than 100 firearms. There's one individual that legally owns 385. And the Australian gun lobby has been celebrating this slow, largely unnoticed rise.
We've been winning because every year since about 99 or 2000, the number of shooters in your state and every other state has grown and grown and grown.
But similar to Port Arthur, the Bondi tragedy could be a turning point. There appears to be appetite to transform this grief into reform.
I'm determined to bring in the toughest gun laws in Australia, and they'll be significantly tightened in New South Wales.
The very nature of our gun laws means that they are only as strong as the weakest link.
The question is, how do our governments ensure that this time the reform lasts?